Hey guys, welcome to Irish Medieval History. And today I've got a returning guest, Shane Kent, who's now up in the University College of Dublin. So, Shane, today you want to cover the topic of Ireland and the classical world. What is it exactly you want to talk about today within that, very broad topic?
Hi, Philip, and thank you very much for having me on the channel again.
You're welcome.
Um, I suppose the main crux of the video is a sample because my previous videos have done so well. I just want to update them for the future. So this is a sample of some of the things that I am going to be talking about. So you're reading a history book anywhere published in Ireland, and generally Ireland in the classical world is given very little coverage for the obvious reason that Ireland was not a physical part of the empire, but we did interact. Um, Ireland was known to the classical world from about the 4th century BC. Greek sailors even possibly got as far as Norway.
Sounds quite impressive.
Then the Carthaginians famously travelled to what were known as the Tin Islands, Britain, and it's not beyond the realm of possibility that they even saw the shore of Ireland. So this idea that we were this insular, on our own little quote, insular Celtic nation is not entirely correct.
I would definitely have to agree with that, especially with the trade routes that you can see from Ireland going to Brittany, then from Brittany down into the Iberian Peninsula. Like that trade is constant, so it makes absolutely no sense to me, that would suddenly just magically disappear, especially when that coastal water is so quick and so fast and so easy to use.
Yeah. Now I will want to discuss this in a later video, but there are obviously no population centres that we know of in Ireland or any political system that the Romans would have used to quote copy and paste their their sense of self or way of living onto Ireland, which does make it difficult for any kind of interaction. But to say that we were just there and ignored is is a falsehood. It's nonsense. We even Denmark, for those who are of a Viking persuasion, more Roman swords have been found in Denmark than anywhere else in the empire. Romans were interacting with those Germanic peoples that became the Danes, and even in Poland. So trade is the biggest influencer of contact ever. So a lot of the information I will be using is from my days as an undergraduate and from my own private research. And for those that may be interested, from in there's a site called Drumnagh. It's in Rush in North County Dublin that has been excavated more and more frequently. That is highlighting the trading aspect between Ireland and Roman Britain, and all of this influences Ireland going into the medieval period much later on. So this image here is from a Google map that I am slowly but surely updating, and it shows every Roman piece of material or archaeology found in the country. Now, I completely overhauled the map, and I have various layers from finds north, south, east, and west, including one found in the sea, the various peoples that lived in the areas of Ireland, all based on Claudius Ptolemy's map of 125 AD. So there's obviously Roman archaeology here. Now, the anything on it is from my previous undergraduate days. There's not a lot of the very new material on it, but that archaeology that is of solid provenance and context is concentrated around the north of Ireland, the Antrim facing Scotland. And if anyone if you forgive me for a cheeky pop, if anyone wants to look at my map at the sources, by all means, please do. But even very crudely, you can see that there's Roman archaeology here. So we were not just ignored.
Mm.
We weren't just left in the ether. And we were in contact with the Roman world at a relatively consistent level. So, we were coming here, they ignored us. Then a century later, kind of, we were in contact, but we weren't really of any major importance up until the 360s. Now, this is Drumnagh Promontory in North County Dublin, and Fingal County Council have been excavating it for the last 5 years. And I've been reading the preliminary excavation reports, and it's turning out to be a treasure trove of finds, which is highlighting the fact that this was a trading station. Among the items found were a fig dated to the first century AD.
Mm.
The obviously figs are not grown here,
Mm.
and the previously oldest known archaeological finds of figs are dated to the 10th century. Now, always bear in mind that one point of data does not make a set. The fig was discovered by the oh, there's I forget the official title, but the food archaeologist in University College Dublin. So any more information coming out will it infers that fancy foodstuffs could be and were consumed or imported here. On previous excavations, Roman coins were found, pottery, and copper ingots. If you want more reading, you should go to the Late Iron Age and Roman Island project. The book is available to buy, and it's the latest report on the excavations done around Drumnagh, and there is solid evidence that metal production was conducted. So copper was being extracted from here, brought to Drumnagh, processed into ingots, shipped into Roman Britain. So there's a few links I have in the source pages that talk about Drumnagh in more detail. And when this site was first written about in the late 1980s, 1990s, the byline was invasion. So for the medievalists here listening, the the report says that this was the Tuhul Tehma, forgive my butchering of our native language, invasion was was the cause of this, or linked to this particular king's invasion. Now, if I remember my Forshfesh Naharan correctly, his reign was dated between the reigns of the Flavian dynasty to Vespasian through to Domitian.
Mm.
So, if we take this to be absolutely true, this would imply that this Irish king was the head of some local kingdom, got kicked out, and then he went to the king of the world, aka the Roman Emperor, to ask for his kingdom to come back, in order to come back to Ireland. In Tacitus's autobiography about Agricola, the legate Augusti Propraetore of Britain, or governor in English, he had an Irish prince in his retinue.
Mm.
Now, this is completely circumstantial, but it does, if you were fond of conspiracies, it does throw the cat amongst the pigeons. But
Big time.
but archaeologically, as I said earlier on, there's no evidence of any political entity that would suggest that there was a king of some power or description.
Mm. Mm. It seems to indicate it later on, though, because he appears as Ardria High King in later textbooks and stuff. So it does indicate that perhaps he did exist. And furthermore, those, where he does appear as kind of quote unquote High King and so on and so forth, and all these other various, titles for King of Ireland, it does align with the arrival of as it said, foreign mercenaries coming onto the island, which does kind of indicate that there is interaction. These foreign mercenaries could most likely be Roman mercenaries. So it is very much on that fringe of mythology or reality. Really is solid, and it would be absolutely amazing to find more archaeological evidence to support that, or even more written evidence. To find that now, obviously, would be so difficult. You say about a needle in a haystack. Well, if the needle's removed from the haystack, it would be even more difficult, and that could be what we're dealing with here.
Yeah, this is the problem when you're dealing with um, myth or semi mythological texts. There's enough truth there to reel you in, but you have to be very careful with it.
Yeah.
It's like if you've ever read the Da Vinci Code. The Da
Well.
Vinci Code has enough truth to be believable, but it's still fiction. And unfortunately, I won't get too much into it right now, but Roman conquest was based around having a territory that you govern directly and then little client kingdoms around your directly governed territory. That's why, if you read any of the classical sources, the governors or the emperor always had a prince in the retinue. Augustus in 14 AD had two British princes. Claudius, who invaded Britain in 43, had a couple. One lived in Britain for the rest, in Rome for the rest of his life. Even Mad Caligula took the surrender of two British princes. So you have to have a yes man, in layman's terms, who will govern the territory on your behalf. Now, the problem with Agricola was he was kind of in his position for far too long. And if you're an emperor, you don't want someone in a province winning battle after battle after battle and getting, to use the Cork expression, notions about himself. So I would like to talk about that in more detail in another video, because it is fascinating, because again it's one of these teases that it's giving you enough to wheel you in, but not enough that you can say is absolute fact.
Yeah.
So the next image here is again touching on the medieval side of things. Are items found in a holy well in St Anne's in County Meath. The brooch on the left is dated to the 1st century AD, and the pottery is Samian ware from Gaul or modern France, dated to the 2nd century. And St Anne's is situated close to the Celtic assembly area of Telltown. This is taken from Eamon Kelly's book on holy wells, and there is a suggestion that the stereotypical Irish holy well is not native at all. It's Romano-British.
Okay.
And a lot of, especially in Bath, its original name was Aqua Sulis or Sulis Minerva. A lot of religious sites in Britain were all water-based. So there's a suggestion that the Irish tradition of worshipping holy wells was actually Romano-British, which then later on got Celtic influenced. But the idea that we have these holy wells that are medieval, dated to the medieval period, have Roman period finds, and a lot of them do have Roman archaeology in it, does again throw the cat amongst the pigeons. How did they get there? When did they get there? So this is an example of the type of archaeology that has been found, just little scattered bits that you don't know how they got there. You don't know if they were bought, were they nicked. It's terrible. You just simply don't know.
Yeah, your imagination go absolutely wild with that type of stuff. And it's definitely interesting how you put out there the connection between the Roman-Britons and the Irish, how the Roman-Britons have that culture of holy wells, and that may have kind of perhaps maybe leaked its way across, which does show trade amongst both the Irish and the Romo Britons and stuff. Which, to be honest with you, there seems to be more and more evidence for.
Yeah, it's becoming, especially looking at the, as I mentioned, the preliminary reports in Drumnagh, trade is business. You know, like even the Chinese emperors in the second century AD knew of Rome. They were importing Roman glass. The name that the Chinese gave Rome was the Kingdom of Glass.
Mm.
And even Roman coins have been found in Japan.
Yeah, there's actually I live out in Okinawa, and there's Roman coins out here in Okinawa. Like,
Now, unless there was some very forgetful ancient coin collector dropped them out of his pockets and forgot about it, it's again trade is a massive influencer for contact.
oh, big time.
And there's a site near St. Anne's Holywell called Phoenix Town,
Mm.
where another bracelet dating to the second century AD was found a few feet within a holy well.
Mm.
So you have a lot of Roman finds of this nature coming from holy wells, the equivalent of going to the Trevi Fountain and flicking a coin for good luck.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Now, the Attacotti, the Daish, are they one and the same? So getting close to the medieval period here, this map is from the Irish settlements in southern Wales or the Kingdom of Dyfed, which is a quasi-Irish kingdom of the Dacia. Now, I got this from Wikipedia, so don't kill me. Any Gael goes amongst us. Daish is an old Irish term which is derived from the word Dacia, Daish, which is a vassal or subject, in particular, people who pay rent to a landlord.
Mm.
Now, that would imply the classic upper class, lower class, or even some quasi feudalistic culture, which would then imply that there was some sort of political organization, obviously organized enough to lead, to start or create these raids, which this map is dated to about the 360, 370s when we start seeing the Scotti appear in Roman records. Now,
Mm.
the Anacotti, this is an interesting one because they are a unit of archers mentioned in a late Roman army document called the Narrata Digitatum. It's basically an army list, and the rough modern estimate would be a regimental list. So the late Roman army is completely changed from the legions of popular myth, and they're basically broken into a static and a field army with specialist cavalry units or archer units, and the Anacotti are archers.
Mm.
And one of the papers I was reading for this suggests that the Anacotti came from here in Ireland.
Oh.
This is based place name place name research. We don't know,
Mm, mm, mm.
but it may have been one of the stones in the National Museum of Dublin. It's one of the Ogham stones where its name is both in Ogham and in Latin script, and he refers to himself as Sagittari or Sagittarius. Sagittarius is the Latin for archer.
Oh, that's quite extraordinary, isn't it?
Yeah. So, and a lot of the Ogham stones are declarative. So they state the name of a king or a leader or a person of importance owns this.
Mm, mm.
Now, writing did not exist before. You might have to correct me on this. When was the first example of Owen? Was about mid 300s AD.
Oh, I'm not quite sure. Yuki, when's the youngest Ormstone writing? Oh, we're not quite sure. Do you want to
Well,
quickly look it
I
up for you?
no no no. It's good. I do know that there was a new one of the newest finds was from 360 AD in Reading,
Mm.
carved in the atrium of a Roman house.
Yeah, yeah,
But writing doesn't appear like that.
yeah, yeah.
Something must have sparked it. Now, if you were next door, if you are an illiterate culture going to a literate, living next door to a literate culture, and you have a bunch of young men doing nothing, you'll send them over to join a certain army
Mm,
where they pick up on this literate culture, they take it back, and
yeah.
then they incorporate. Again, it's another example of having enough information to suggest something solid, but it's just not enough.
Mm,
It's an awful tease, isn't it?
yeah, I definitely say so.
Now, the last one here is what videos I would like to update. Now, I made a few over the years, but I would like to update. One of the things I would love to start on properly would be the clothing.
Mm.
I know I did a video
Do you want to
several
do
years.
a separate video on the clothing?
I'll do a separate one at a
Okay,
later
is
date.
that Whoa, Shane! The evidence you put forward today is absolutely remarkable, and it really does show the interaction that Ireland and Britain had during the Roman occupation of Britain at the time, and it really goes to show that Ireland wasn't isolated. Added the fact that you have the arrival of Saint Patrick, obviously around 390 up to 436, around that whole period, and also the arrival of Palladius, who was a bishop, heavily indicates that there was already a Christian society in Ireland. And furthermore, with the evidence that you've added into this, shows the heavy influence that Ireland and Britain had between each other at the time. God, Shane, that's absolutely remarkable, to tell you, to be completely honest with you, and really goes to show that further research and study would pay off so well to do with the relationship between Ireland and the wider world at the time. Other than that, guys, thanks very much, Shane, for coming on today. It means so much to me for you to bring this information to light, given how much I absolutely love Irish medieval history and do believe that more of this information should be highlighted in the future. Thanks, Shane, for coming on today.
Thank you very much.
And other than that, guys, thanks very much, and slán go bhaile.